Howdy world, my name's Melinda and welcome to Universe Lovers. Today we're going to be doing a fill-in with Polygel. Ha 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 ha. For those of you who have worked with Polygel, you know the struggle. And hopefully you get some tips and tricks off of this video that will help you maneuver this product and learn how to work with it and become a pro. Let's start by using a 100/180 grit nail file. This nail file is a rough one, and this is perfect for removing and debulking the nail. You want to thin out that nail, especially around the cuticle area and the apex area, so when you start to rebuild that nail through the fill-in, it's not going to be a super chunky and fat nail. It's important as a nail technician to focus and make sanitation and cleanliness a priority. So I'm just spritzing my nails with some alcohol and dusting off the dust and debris. Once I'm done dusting off the dust, I'm going to be using my safety bit. Now this is a bit that you want to have in your set, especially when you are a beginner. I got this on Amazon and this is perfect for not cutting yourself. A lot of bits are super sharp and this has a rounded edge, which makes it easier for carving out the nail. This is the perfect bit to have in your collection because as a beginner you will have a lot of trouble working around the cuticle area, and this helps because it has rounded edges so it won't cut as much. Next we're going in with the cuticle pusher, and I am pushing my cuticle back. Cuticle pushing is something that you must do. Even if you don't remove it, pushing it back is key to remove the sticky cuticle that's stuck on the nail plate. This is one of my favorite cuticle pushers because it is super thin, so it pushes back that stubborn cuticle that's on your nail plate. Here I'm using a cuticle nipper and I am just removing the cuticle that I had pushed back. This just makes the nail look a lot more cleaner, a lot more fresh. It gives you actually, if you have like small nails, this will elongate the nail by removing the cuticle. So I love this. I bought these on Amazon and I just love doing cuticle work. It's one of my favorite things, honestly. At first I was super scared and super nervous always doing cuticle work, and there's always going to be times where you're going to cut yourself or you're going to cut a client, but just keep practicing. Honestly, that's the best tip I can give anyone. Just be careful. Don't go crazy trying to nip a lot of it. Do whatever you see. I'll make an in-depth video on doing cuticle work and just nail prep, honestly, because I feel it's something that everyone should learn how to do, especially as a beginner. I know it can be terrifying, but I am a true believer and a person that's telling you from experience that's only been a nail technician for about a year, less than a year, that it has gotten so much easier. And you know, there's gonna be some blood. There's gonna be some blood shed, but it's okay. All right, you see this bit here? It changed my life, honestly, because when you're a beginner, you have so much struggles, especially like not fully cleaning out the cuticle because you're learning, right? But once a owner of a salon put me onto this magical bit, which usually comes in a set, I loved it. And it's a bit that is foolproof. It will clean out the cuticle and it will not cut. So I'm definitely going to link it in the description. It comes in a set, but I usually just buy the set just to get this bit. So know that it's going to be your BFF. Dusting off the nails with some alcohol. And now I'm going to be using another bit that's a game changer. Now I've seen this in a lot of videos, but I couldn't get the name of it because they weren't listing it when I was looking for it. And I was just like, what is it? I need this bit. I need this bit. It just looks so amazing. And it's actually called a Cuticle Bit. And there are two brands that I know on Amazon that carry it. And the first one is called Pana. That's spelled P-A-N-A. And the second brand is Makart. I believe it's spelled M-A-K-A-R-T-T. Love these two bits. They're perfect for really cleaning off that cuticle that's stuck on your nail plate and just doing cuticle work, especially if you don't want to use a cuticle nipper and your client says, hey, I don't want nobody cutting my cuticle, then this bit is the alternative. And this one will not do any cutting because this is a super fine bit. You can buy it in like a stronger grit. I have the fine bit and I also have the medium, but I feel like fine is perfect for beginners. Next, I'm going to be dehydrating the nail. So you have to make sure that when you are prepping the nail, once you remove the cuticle and clean out the nail plate, you are applying dehydrator and removing those oils off of the nail and also making that area super dry. It's so important. I'm telling you, it's like, I thought it wasn't important. I'm like, why do I need to do this? Let's just skip on to putting base coat. But you want to make sure that under that nail, nothing is growing. You want to make sure that area is super dry, because once you apply something on top of it, there's no air getting in. So if there's some water on top of there or some oil and it's just sitting there however long you leave those nails on for, there's a risk of you getting greenies, as they call it, or you get a nail lifting. So please prep that nail properly. So dehydration is key. I did put on primer, but that part you didn't see on here. Anyhow, we're doing some base coat, and base coat is necessary in order for your gel polish to adhere. This is a Model 1's base coat, and I love them. I really love them. They're super inexpensive. Their products work incredibly, and I'm just a super fan. So I'm just applying this to each of my nails, a thin coat, and making sure to not touch the cuticle. I like to get close to the cuticle, don't get me wrong, but I don't want it touching the cuticle because it will cause lifting when you apply your color. So please be advised about that. Also, I love to clean off the edges, and if I did go into the cuticle area by mistake or it flooded, it like lean back into the cuticle, with a brush I actually go really close to the cuticle and just make sure that I clean it. Once I cure that, I'm going to be applying the Polygel. This is the McCart's Clear Polygel Nail Extension, and I'm dipping my brush inside some alcohol solution. I'm using 70% alcohol. One clear tip that I want to give you is that you want to make sure that you do not oversaturate your brush. That is a big mistake that I made as a beginner. I was just soaking the brush and throwing it on and trying to move the product, and the product was just like moving everywhere. It was like getting stuck to the brush. It was a hot mess. So please make sure that once you dip it into the brush, you are then patting that product or pushing it first up towards the cuticle and then patting it around, and then going back into your alcohol or your slip solution, wiping your brush down afterwards, making sure there's no product stuck onto the brush. As you're going to see here, you're going to see me clean off my brush a lot, but it's important that you just remove that product that's on the brush so that you can apply that product smoothly, because if not, it'll start to stick and almost become like spider webs. The drier the brush, the better, and just like work with the product. Polygel is just so tricky at first and it's so sticky. You have to keep cleaning off the brush, and then you just mold it. Think of it as clay. You're building and molding this product as though it was clay. Another tip I can give you is that if you are applying your Polygel and you put too much Polygel on, by you not applying so much solution, whatever excess product is left over, then you can use it to apply onto another nail. That way you're not just wasting product. I also think it's important to point out that when you're doing a nail fill-in, you don't need product towards the end of your nail, like the tip, because that part is already formed from the previous application when you did your nails at first. Now you're just working on a fill-in, and that's pretty much just around the cuticle area. You want to fill in that area and rebuild a little bit of your apex, but the rest of the nail is not really important. I learned that I didn't need to use some more product to apply it onto an area that I'm just gonna file it all off, so it's just a waste of product, and I'd rather just be more conscious of that. That way you save more product and you honestly just use it for what you need it for. Unless your nail's super thin and you want to rebuild and reshape that nail because you probably took down too much product, don't even waste your time. Apply it strictly on the cuticle area and on your apex area, and you are good to go. Also, another tip I want to point out is that it's best to use a little bit of product, especially when you're doing a fill-in or when you're building the nail in general, because that way you can see how the nail is forming out. Sometimes when you apply too much product, what happens is that you just end up with this big ball of nail. It's just super bulky and it's just ugly. Meanwhile, if you only used a little bit of product, you would have been able to have more control of it and see, okay, I'm missing some here. I can fill in this area. This area is too bulky, so I need to add a little more on that side. And there's actually a dent in the middle, so I need to fill that in. Things like that you'll be able to see a lot better when you start off using less product. Once I started learning how to use Polygel, I became instantly in love with it, because if you don't have a nail drill and you just like to do work with a nail file, with Polygel you can form the cuticle area and not so close to it, so that when you go to file that area, you're not constantly hitting your cuticle and like damaging your cuticle or burning yourself or cutting yourself, because you are forming the Polygel exactly the way the nail file will shape it, if that makes sense. So it gives a little bit of distance from the cuticle so that when you're filing, you're not burning yourself or hurting yourself. And that is a huge thing for me, honestly, because as everyone knows, when you're first starting off, you cut yourself a lot and there are a lot of burns going on, and I'm just like, ah! So it also helps the work look cleaner and smoother, and you just continue to clean your brush out, shape the area, and then clean those corners. Clean those corners constantly, clean your brush constantly, mold it, take your time, don't rush yourself. It's gonna be a hot mess in the beginning, and then the second time will probably be a hot mess again, but it's gonna eventually you get to know the product, and once you get to know the product, it'll be a lot easier to work with, and who knows, it might become your favorite product to work with, like what happened to me. Alrighty, so now I molded my nail to my liking, and then I cured it. Now there's going to be a sticky layer left over, and that has to be removed. So just apply some alcohol and a cotton swab or a lint-free wipe and remove that sticky layer. Once you remove that sticky layer, you can jump into the next step, which is shaping and filing. I'm using the safety bit that I was using earlier, and this bit is safe for the most part if you keep it at a decent speed. If it's too high, it can burn you, but it's perfect to do that cuticle work. As you see here with this safety bit, I'm basically sealing the cuticle so that I'm preventing lifting, making sure the product is laid close to the nail. Then I'm just going to make sure to file down the nail and shape it evenly and remove all bumps that I feel on the nail. Shaping is such a valuable thing because even if you go too crazy on certain places where it's too bulky or too thick, when you file and shape, you can bring that nail to life. So it's one of the most important things, one of the key things to learn when it comes to nails. Even if it takes you 10 hours, you can still shape a nail into what you want it to look like. Take your time with shaping. It is an art that you do want to master. This may take hours, but those hours are well spent because you're going to learn a lot from the mistakes that you make, and where you can take down some more, where you can shape straighter, where you can like line things up nicely and create curves and create thinness and keep certain areas fuller. With practice, I promise you, you will get better. I mean, when I first started doing Polygel, it was ridiculous. It was like I did the dual forms and I popped them on, and then once I took it off, I was like, oh, I have a nail. And I touched something and it popped right off. It just broke off. And that was just, a part of learning. It's like, oh, I did this too thin. Oh, I didn't know what I was doing. Oh, I missed one part. Now I know I have to fill it in more. It's just constant learning. So be patient with yourself. Learn to work with products because it's the same as if you're working with a hair product or a skin product. Sometimes you just have to know or get to use a product enough times to be able to understand how it works. Each product works differently. That's an important tip I can share with you. We're just going to apply some alcohol, disinfect the nail, remove all the dust from nail filing, and we are done. We did our nail filling and it turned out amazing. Stay tuned for part 2 where I designed these same nails with some nail art.